The time is 11 after 9 o'clock. Welcome back to the second hour of our show right here on Salam Media. We also welcome our Polokwane listeners on One Nation FM to the show. Our next guest is Richard Mamabolo, Police and Prison Civil Rights Union. That's, of course, Pop Crew. He is their spokesperson. And he's going to talk to us about the alleged rights violations and also that prisoners have threatened to go on a hunger strike if their rights are denied, their rights being access to laptops in their cells, and this is something that is causing a bit of an uproar. A very good morning to you, Richard. Welcome to the program.
Good morning to you, Julian, the listeners.
Now, we do know that this all started with someone, I think about 2 weeks ago. I think the prisoner, Mbalenhle Sydney Ntuli, he has requested a laptop because of his studies. The issue actually landed up in court because it seems as if initially he was not allowed to have a laptop in his cell. What exactly is the big picture here?
Yeah, look, I think from the standpoint of the union is that we do accept that we moved from heavy prisons to correctional centers. Now, the core function of the Department of Correctional Services is to ensure that there is rehabilitation. And education forms part of the major basis of ensuring that we do get some form of rehabilitation within our correctional services. So we would gladly like to see more inmates registering to study so that they can improve on their self cultivation, which will ensure that we deal with challenges that are currently faced within our correctional centers, including gangsterism, and of course the fact that there has been quite a lot of reoffending rates currently. So those are education is part of the key measures of ensuring that there is rehabilitation. So as a union, we definitely do encourage that students, inmates should register to study. But you remember that with regards to the judgment that was taken by the courts recently, that the laptop should be made available, we do definitely agree with that. But of course, there definitely needs to be measures to ensure that such gadgets are not utilized to further perpetuate criminal activities. So that is one of the standpoints that we are with, and we are hopeful that through the review of the process, which is the Supreme Court of Appeals had ruled that the DCS must obviously revise. We believe that there should be mechanisms to ensure that the use of laptops become available for those who are studying, but as well as ensuring that they are monitoring platforms wherein you do not have people actually using them for other ulterior motives.
Mhm. Is there, we have technology has advanced by leaps and bounds, and I'm kind of wondering, is it not possible to make the laptops available to those prisoners in correctional services who are wanting to study? And that's a distinction, is it not? You'll only
Yeah.
get a laptop if you have registered to study a valid cause. And then going back to the issue around an IT specialist, could they not block off all other platforms from that particular laptop and only give the student access to the course material and possibly to interact with perhaps the invigilator or the trainer that is running the course? Is that a possibility? Have you guys explored that avenue?
Look, it is a possibility. I think current technological advances have demonstrated that it is possible, and we are hopeful that with the review of this policy by the Department of Correctional Services, which is expected to be concluded within the next 10 months, that should be taken into consideration. And from that, we believe that it will also ensure that these laptops are not used for any other alternative. You remember that. We currently have challenges around having cell phones within correctional facilities, which are illegal, of course. So that is one other source of internet that could be used, and of course that needs to be looked into. But in the overall, we should obviously as well look into the communication policy of the Department of Correctional Services so that it becomes easier or more accessible for inmates to be able to somehow communicate with their families. And we believe that through the accessibility of communication, it will limit the kinds of contrabands that we find within our correctional centers, including cell phones, for example.
I'm also wondering regarding the people in correctional services that are willing to study. What sort of measures are in place to steer them in the right direction? Because you made a very valid point earlier on, because if somebody's been imprisoned due to gangsterism, for example, if whilst they're in prison and they rehabilitate via some sort of a learning program, obviously having a laptop as access to enable them to reach that goal, at least when they leave the prison, once they've served their term, there's a possibility that they would be gainfully employed. If not, they would be able to use their skills to enhance their own lives in some form, way or other, and also touch other lives, make a difference, because that's what we want. It's pointless putting someone in prison for 2, 3, 4, 10 years, whatever, and they come out being an absolutely hardened prisoner, and comes back into civil society and immediately reoffends.
Yes, the point you are making is quite valid, because currently we've got an 85% reoffending rate, meaning that the number of inmates who are released from our prisons, 85% of them tend to go back because they do not have sufficient skills. They have not learned anything from within our correctional facilities. Part of the major problem that we've been discussing with the Department of Correctional Services is the issue around overcrowding and understaffing. And just recently, you would be aware that just a month ago, we had a fire incident in one of the private prisons in Limpopo, which is Kutamas in Tumulwe. So there was a loss of over 3,200 beds, meaning that all these inmates had to then be redistributed across other facilities which are already overburdened. So overcrowding and understaffing remains a challenge. And of course, it then hinders on the prospect of rehabilitation. That is an immediate challenge which we are looking into. But in the long term, of course, I think we've reached some form of agreement with the management of the DCS that we need to ensure that in the long run, we start a process whereby we ensure that correctional facilities will become self-sufficient. And that includes, of course, education, which is quite important. We are looking into issues around ensuring that the very same beds that the inmates utilize are produced by them. The very same food that they eat is produced by them. And of course, many other areas, of course, which will ensure that immediately when a person gets into the facility, so it's not only about studying, basically, but also ensuring that other forms of skills are available to the inmates. And that we believe that when an inmate finishes their incarceration time, they should be in a position to have sufficient skills that they can actually even become employers themselves outside of prison. So those are some of the measures that we're definitely looking at. So it's a multifaceted approach, which we believe that could well yield positive results in the end.
Thank you indeed, Richard Mamabolo, Police and Prison Civil Rights Union POPCRU spokesperson. That sounds very encouraging. We hope and pray that it does come to pass. You can't have people in prison for a period or even an indefinite period without keeping their minds occupied in a very in a very positive way, because like we've just indicated, if not, they come out and reoffend almost immediately, and your stats obviously testifies to that as well. 85% of inmates who go out into civil society reoffend again. So good luck. We hope to hear better news in the coming days and in the coming years. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you. Thank you. And one of the good news that we've just heard is about the status of the Israeli embassy. We think that Cabinet has actually taken a good decision in that.
Thank you. Go well. God bless.
Thank you.
It is exactly 9:20 a.m. News and views on Salam Media. And next we'll be talking with Alison Lazarus from SAWID.